Alright, Love Tea here, and I've got a special video for you guys today. We're going to take a look at how to make your own mini golf holes and mini golf courses. So the first step we're going to want to do is come on over here to your Create tab, then up below that in the Community Projects, we're going to click on Community Projects. Then we're going to go to our search bar here and search mini golf, which will bring up this mini golf tile set by Divide. So what you're going to want to do is click on here. You want to name your project whatever you want, mini golf course. We'll just go say mini golf uh, test course. So this is going to create a new project in our project. So we'll click download. All right, so now we're into the editor. We're greeted by our tile set here. You can see in our hierarchy, we have the tile set, which is all our example pieces over there. Then we have levels, which we have 3 different holes here, example holes. And then you also have this README, which you'll probably want to take a quick glance at this. One quick good thing to note. All right, so the README says use a grid snap of 100 and be in group selection mode. So let's do that. Let's go to snap 100 and then click on snap to grid. Now, so if we click on, let's see. So simple level, this is this little L or whatever you want to call it. So if we click on, okay. So we're not in group selection mode. Hold on here. Group. All right. So now no matter where we click, it's always going to select the full piece. So one thing I suggest is rather than building your own holes from scratch, you either modify the ones that are in here, or what you could do is you could grab one of them and Control C, Control V to copy it. Where the hell's our arrows? So this group is way out of the main spot. So anytime you see how this arrow is far away, if you ever want to fix that, what you want to do is you want to go into your folder here, select everything within it, and then we're going to slide it over to where these arrows were. Now when we go back to selecting our level, you can see our arrows are in a better spot to be able to move it around. Makes things a lot easier. Sometimes the grouping could be off, but it's an easy fix. All right, so now if you guys recognize this level, it's kind of funny that they would have put this one as one of the examples, because in the main mini golf course by Divide, this is probably one of the most hated levels. This level has a donut normally here that you gotta hop through, and it's very easy to hit it too hard and go off the course, or hit the donut or land back down here and then you gotta go around again. And I've seen a lot of people leave the game from that one level in frustration. So I would suggest if you're building a course, the best way you could design it is make it easy for everybody to finish, but make it very difficult to get a good score. And that way you're meeting everybody kind of halfway. Um, so all skill levels could still enjoy it because if you make the course too hard, you know, you're gonna have some diehards that really enjoy it, um, that will latch onto it possibly, but then you're gonna have a lot of people that won't be able to finish the course, and um, you know, you're gonna make your potential crowd a lot smaller that way. All right, so let's I guess let's start with this level 5. So what I'm gonna do is I want to keep this start zone. I want to keep the golf hole for sure. And we're gonna go around and we're gonna delete everything else. So I'm just gonna go through here as long as it's not on my starting zone. Okay, that one is for the golf hole. So that's a flat end hole tile, so we want to leave that. Okay, let's delete everything else. All right. Then we have a couple random pieces here that were added to bounce off. Get rid of that. And we might as well. I mean, you could keep the whole sign. It's not very necessary to have to say what hole it is because on the scoreboard and everything else, it's still going to tell you which hole it is. So, um, it's to your discretion if you want to add the whole sign or not. I guess we'll just go ahead and delete it for now. Uh, okay, so this is our flat end tile for our start zone. We're going to put that beside there. And then we have these. This, I'm going to want to change it so that we're going straight at it. So what I'm going to do is put these two in a group. Then I will turn this around 180. Put this other hole out of the way. So we have a little bit more room here. All right, so we'll start with it there for now. Then what we're going to want to do is if we come over onto the tabs here, we have project content. We're going to go to my templates, and that's going to have all these pieces here. You could also just either grab them from the tile set and copy them. I would suggest leaving the original there because it's always good to have the examples out while you're building, because unless you memorize the names of them, you're not going to know which one's which. So say we come over here, we click on it. Now we know this one here is our curve. Um, so as you can see, these all have different names. So what are we going to start out with here? Let's start out with a curve or two, actually. So what we'll do is I'm going to copy this. All right, let's see. Now our curve's over here. Let's put it in level 5, and then we'll just set the position back to 0. If ever you have a piece selected, if you press F, it's going to zoom you right to it. That's a good trick to remember. All right, so let's do uh, here, I don't know why. Mirror on the X and mirror on the Y. Yeah, so when I originally used this tile set. I read the readme, but I I tend to skim over things, and I totally missed that you could just use the snap to grid. This way works way easier than what I was trying to do. So definitely make sure you have it snap to grid. It's gonna make your life a lot easier. Okay, don't know why. So as you can tell, my computer kind of struggles when I'm selecting stuff in the editor. So let's just make this a short hole for now. We got a couple curves here. Going to put this 90. We can unwrap this one for now. All right, so what we're going to want to do is in this level folder, whatever level you have in the first slot is going to be what it starts on. So what we'll do is we'll move this up here in the hierarchy. And that way, when we press play, it's going to go straight to this level. That way we could test it out. All right. So I tend to build holes so that you could get a hole in one. It's not necessary. You could definitely build longer holes. Um, that's really up to you. So as you can see, you could definitely get a hole in one on that first shot. So that worked pretty good. Um, although I would say this is kind of a boring hole. I like to put obstacles of some sort. At least one obstacle of some sort. But you could definitely make easy holes too. I think if you're gonna build a full course, you're gonna want a mix of easy and difficult levels. Definitely, ideally, have your hardest levels near the end of the course, I would say. But yeah, pretty straightforward. The tile set's all here. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to have your snap to grid on. You want to have your group selection, etc., all set to the proper modes. And then you have all these tiles already ready built for you. So I think it's really, really easy for people to get on here and test it out and build their own holes, and it's a lot of fun. So I definitely suggest people trying it out. We have an upcoming jam for mini golf to build your own mini golf holes. So if you're interested, definitely check that out. Stay tuned. It'll be announced on the Discord. But even if you don't compete, mini golf's a really fun game. I think it's one of the better games that are on core. And considering you already have a tile set already set up here for you, and myself and a lot of other people really enjoy the mini golf games on here. So if you guys make a good mini golf game, you definitely have me as a player, and probably a lot of other people too. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. You could either drag and drop from your project content for all these pieces or use the tile set. That's up to you. I suggest using these levels and control paste or whatever, copy pasting these levels and using the holes and the starting zones that are already there. It'll make it a little bit your life a little bit easier, and then just delete out all the pieces you don't need, leaving your start zone and your golf hole, and then add back in. You don't if you take a look here, what's very important is we'll switch off group select here for a second so we could select the objects. So you could see the ground is always named grass in the hierarchy, and any wall is always named wall. Now, if you don't name something wall, it's not going to bounce off it. Um, Folder in the hierarchy, it's not going to it's not going to reset your ball or anything, but it's just not going to interact the way it's supposed to. So anything on the ground, make sure it's named grass. Anything as a wall or anything that you want the player to be able to bounce off or bounce around or whatever, make sure you name it wall. As long as you follow those two things, yeah, you could use pretty much whatever. One thing I would suggest, if you're gonna use, like, let's go into our props here. Let's search barrel. Now, if you're gonna use something like a barrel, one good thing to note is the hitboxes and collision on certain objects aren't gonna be the same as like a cube or a cylinder or something that's very simple in its geometry. So if you put a barrel and you expect people to be able to bounce off it, a lot of the time you're gonna get results that you're not intending. Like the ball will get stuck underneath the barrel or something. So if you're gonna put a barrel, what you're gonna wanna do is let's just copy this barrel in our hierarchy. Then we're gonna go click on it here, and we're gonna go down. We're gonna go to the mesh, and we're gonna grab a cylinder. I guess we could do a bulged one. That way it kind of has the same shape. We're gonna turn off. Let's turn off snap to grid here for a second. So try and get this kind of on the floor. Then we're gonna move this up so it covers our barrel. Let's make that a little bit smaller. Make this a little bit taller. All right. So then what we'll want to do is come over here and we want to keep the game collision on, but what we're going to want to do is turn off the visibility. So visibility off. Um, we're going to want to make sure this is named wall. And then we could just go ahead and throw this in to our current hole that we were working on. Now, I don't have to change wooden barrel to wall because what's the ball's going to actually bounce off is the invisible cylinder here. But this is by doing this, it's going to give you a much nicer collision on the object. So I really sincerely suggest anybody adding. So you could still add whatever crazy weird objects of any shapes you want, but make sure you go in with some invisible simple objects to get your collision. Or else you're gonna have a hard time. The ball's gonna get stuck underneath. It's just not gonna bounce nicely. So yeah, I definitely suggest that. And I guess the last thing, we'll take a look at the two courses I've built so far. And I'll talk about how I designed them and give you guys some design tips. So we will. For now, we don't have to. I guess we could save it just for the funsies. It's gonna ask me to save it on the way out of here anyways. So close that. We're gonna hop over. So indoor mini golf is the first course that I released. I also have a second one on the way. I haven't released it yet, but it's finished. It's ready to go. So it's gonna be very soon that I'm gonna drop it. All right. So we're over here in my indoor mini golf. game. One thing to note is the mini golf tile set doesn't contain all the leaderboards and all the tutorial and all the rest of the stuff that mini golf has. It really just has the bare minimum of things you need to be able to design and test out holes. Um, so if ever you want to build a full course, you're gonna want to do a bit more work, and I would say a decent amount of coding involved, especially to get it to the point where mini golf is. Um, so what we're gonna want to do here is, I'm gonna go into my hierarchy. We're gonna turn the visibility for the UI off. We're gonna go jukebox, turn that visibility off, and then that way we could see what the hell we're doing here. So the way I designed this course is, um, to start, I built out the building. Then threw in. I pretty much built it out hole by hole. Um, and as I was going along, I decided, okay, I want to make it to this part of the building, or I kind of did it as we went, but I also had an end goal in. All right. So yeah, one thing I wanted to keep in mind when I was building this course is I had my entrance always here, and I had this booth that I wanted to make sure that the 18th hole was going to end on the roof of this building. So pretty much the ball is supposed to go down into the building, and then you come to this booth to get your ball and your putter, and then you start off the course. So I always had that in mind as I was building it out, that I wanted to make sure that I was ending there. um for every hole I tried to do a bit of a different theme. I would suggest, if you want to build a whole course, try and pick one theme that you really enjoy and do the whole course in that theme. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. You're not going to have to build as many individual objects, unless you enjoy doing that. I have a lot of artwork that I've made on here already, so it's kind of easy for me to go into other projects or other folders and grab pieces like this museum I've already built. I already had built, so uh, it's easy for me to throw in here. But if you're gonna go and build all these individual things, I mean, it's gonna take you a lot more time, definitely. So for the first 9 holes, I did like a goofy little number. Um, as you can see, we got some Animal Crossing owls in here. Threw in Brain from Pinky and the Brain. And essentially, I just wanted a little bit of fun artwork to look at while you're playing, and as well as for the obstacles. Like that first hole doesn't have many obstacles on the hole, but and it ends in this nice museum. Then you come up. This next hole, we have this cool looking Kid Bash dragon door to go through. I also left a gap here so that you could actually go down um, down to this bottom part right from up here. And that's how you're going to get a hole in one on this hole. You could also come up by here and possibly get a hole in one. I've never seen it done, but I'm pretty sure it's possible. This next hole I reworked a couple times. One thing I will say is I, I suggest building your courses outdoor. Um, Very frustrating. My computer just always stops the recording. But what I was saying is, I really suggest building your courses outdoors. Anytime you build it indoors, you're gonna have these walls. It's gonna make your shots very cramped, Every once in a while, you're actually going to have to pull the cursor forward to shoot rather than backwards, and it becomes a little bit confusing for the player. So while it's definitely doable to do an indoor course, I really suggest just keeping it outdoors. It's just going to make your life that much easier, make design a little bit easier. Although I did have a lot of fun building this, and I still think it does play fairly well, but there's just a couple parts where you're feeling a little bit cramped. Um, so yeah, so for this hole, I I wanted to put multiple ways to finish the hole, um, for each hole. So as you can see, we have this ramp here. You could either come up here on this ramp, hopefully land in this, that'll bring you down the pipe. You could also come down here and bounce off this wall down here, which will bounce you off this other wall, and then finally this wall and towards the hole, ideally. Both ways you're able to get a hole in one. It's very tricky though. This next hole is kind of like a space theme that I was going for. Wanted to give a shout out to Spaceport Tycoon as well as Minigolf in Space, so I figured a space hold theme would be a good setting for it. So we start here. We could either knock off these pieces, go back to this other ramp, and then come down the side here to go towards the hole. If we go through these gaps here, it'll send us up probably to the ceiling, and then we'll come down, bounce on this wedge here, and then towards the hole. So really, I think the only way to get a hole in one would be to go through these and get bounced off. You're just not going to have enough speed to make it. All right, this next hole, you can see I did three ramps. So we had this clown wall I already had built. So I pretty much designed the hole around this clown wall. So I have these 3 ramps leading up to these 3 holes. For this hole, to get a hole in one, you're going to want to go straight down the middle, pretty much on this square, and then just straight. You could go by the left and the right ramp, but I don't think you could get a hole in one in that one, and it's also very finicky. I will say the more like weird shapes and ramps and the more pieces you have, the more chance that the collision's gonna act funny on you, and you're gonna bounce off things that you're not expecting to. So the more simple you can make your level design, the better chance that it'll play well. So as you can see, right, I click on here. I use just one piece for this whole flat area. You know, if I'd say I had one piece up to here and then one piece here, every time you have a crack is a chance for collision. So um, the less pieces, the better. The more chance that it's going to play smoothly. So yeah, you can see if you come through these walls or these holes at the top, you could potentially bounce off the corners and make your way towards the hole. Um, for this middle hole, you bounce off here and it sends you right towards the hole as well. This next one is a little bit tricky. So I tried to make sure you have these green arrows to indicate to the player that they have to go up here. And you also, one thing I wanted to make sure is to keep the grass the same color throughout the hole. That way, it's very clear to the player which hole they're on and which hole they're going for. So from up here, potentially you could hit it really lightly and end up on this hole down here. But you can see the grass is in the same color, so it's kind of obvious, or more obvious anyways to the player that, hey, you shouldn't be going up there. Look for the yellow grass up there. Um, so as you can see, I have two sets of arrows, and the reason why is you could either straight shot across into this ramp, which is the easiest way to get up here, but then you're setting yourself up for a hole for a 2 or a 3. But you could also go to on an angle towards this ramp and potentially get a hole in one that way. And I also put this 6 here as another object to bounce off. And that's how I get a hole in one actually, is by shooting straight at the 6, slightly off to the left of the middle, and that usually gets me a hole in one. But one thing to note is you got to be shooting full power. Um, so it's up to you how you want to design the holes. One thing is if you decide a hole where the player has to shoot a certain with a certain power level, I've seen a lot of people struggle on that level and not figure out that you have to go full power for a while. They'll go like 10 shots where they're just not making it. And I always worry that players are going to leave during that. On this next one as well, you need to go full power or else you're not going to make it over to the hole, which is all the way down here. This is a very fun hole though. You really get a lot of air time and potentially you can get it straight into the hole and like swoosh it in. Um, Originally this boat just kind of sat here, but I put an object rotator on it, so this boat actually makes its way around the water, and you could bounce off it and stuff. It's kind of fun. All right, so level 8. This is a very tricky hole. Really the only way you can make it to the hole is going down here, down through the middle. This ramp here is kind of just to throw you off. But as you can see when we make it onto the other side, you have these pieces of wood here on each side of this ramp, and this is kind of hard to get up. So really you have to be going up this ramp. And if you end up on the side here, you're gonna want to come back down here so you could go up the ramp. It's gonna be very tricky otherwise, and I've seen a lot of people struggle on this hole. So this is one I would say maybe I should have made a little bit easier. I don't like to make people struggle. I like to see, people having fun and making their way through the course. Um, but really it's up to you. It's up to you how you want to design it, how hard you want to make it. Hmm. All right, so we're up here at level 9 or hole 9, however you want to say it. Um, so this hole is pretty fun. So I designed it so that you could either go straight down and then come back around. I don't think I've never seen anybody get a hole in one that way. You could get pretty close to the hole doing that though, but you have to get a pretty lucky bounce. I also put this tiny little gap here. Now you could either use this triangle here to make your way through the gap, or what I do is I go on the very top corner right here, shoot it straight at the gap, and it just happens to bounce back and forth and then make its way for a hole in one. Um, that wasn't actually part of the intended design. I intended you to have to bounce off this triangle, but clearly, after some testing, I figured out, hey, there's other ways. So on to hole 10. This is a fun hole. Not very straightforward. As you can see, you can't see the hole from the top, but we have this little triangle here. Yeah, I've never seen anybody get a hole in one going down this gap. Um, but I'm pretty sure it is possible. And so I added some stairs here. As you can see, I kind of tried to make the layout so that it works for people to walk around it. You don't have to design your course that way. You could totally have it a video game world where, people don't necessarily exist, or you could try and build it into real life. I tried to make it like an actual indoor course that you would visit in real life. So, I tried to make sure we have stairs all over the place and that um, people could actually move around the course and get to the different holes. But you don't have to design it that way. So on this hole, I actually incorporated the stairs into the hole. And as you can see, we come down here, we have this wall that we got to make it around, and then we come down into this little zone. I like to put a spotlight on the hole. You don't always have to do that, but all right, on to hole number 11. This is a fun one. I designed it like a plinko board. I think it's kind of fun to put a random hole into your course where even if you shoot it well, you're not guaranteed a hole in one. So as long as you, yeah, I made the hole all in glass because what happens is when the ball goes through this pipes, the camera will follow it downwards, and then we end up getting to see the ball going through. And as long as we had glass on this side, we're still able to see what's going on. If not, if we had not put glass here, then we would have to make sure the player was going to move around the camera so they could see what's going on, which doesn't make sense, right? Um, so yeah, that's pretty much how I designed that hole. On to this one. This is a very challenging hole. I had a hard time building this hole. So if you see this piece up here, originally I had the hole all the way up here. Then I had this ramp that you could potentially jump all the way up there to the top. In playtesting, it worked well, but then playing online, sometimes the movement's a little bit different. Um, so yeah, I would suggest don't force the player to make too challenging of a shot, or else, um, it might not work properly online. And if there's any bit of lag, it's going to just cause a huge headache for the player and a lot of frustration. So I suggest try and make your levels like on the easier side more than difficult. So for this one, we could either go up this ramp, we could go up this ramp. Both those ways tend to lead you down here, and then we could get a hole in two coming down this alley. Or I put this ramp here on the left, just like making it all the way up there to the top. We could still use this as a jump, but now the hole's down here, so it's a little bit easier to make it to. And if you shoot it on the right angle with the right amount of power, you could get a hole in one on that hole. Quite difficult though, because you're shooting it behind you, so you don't really see what you're shooting at. And I actually designed this hole exactly the same way as that last one. So when you come in, you're looking down this way, which you can shoot down to those rocks, bounce around, come back down around this whale, or you could line up with this rock here on the right, shoot at full power at here, and ideally you're going to fly over this little stone wall and make your way towards the hole. I have got a hole in one on that one, so it's definitely possible. Next hole is a school bus. So I actually built this school bus particularly for this hole. Um, yeah, it was a lot of fun to create it. I didn't have to worry about, oh, is this going to work as a vehicle, because it was never intended to be. But I did try to design it as nicely and, you know, to look as much like a school bus as possible. We have our little sitting area with our mirror to look At the naughty kids in the back, we have our opening little door. I didn't put the handle to open the door because I figured it's kind of unneeded. Then we have our hole down here. So I designed this hole. You want to hit this wall at the right amount of power, and then you'll fly down this ramp. I put this arrow on the back of it so that the player has some indication that they're wanting to come down here into this gap. It's a tricky hole, but if you get it right, it feels pretty good to get a hole in one on that one. This next one, we could either fly right through the monster's chest, or we could go to the left or the right. I always use this line here as my lineup. I place the ball on this line, and then I just go full power, keeping on this line. And usually that'll get you a hole in one. As you can see, we fly through the chest, then we end up flying through these bars. It's really cool with the green checkers. This next hole, so this one, I think I designed probably a little bit too difficult. It's possible to get a hole in one for sure. So I usually place the ball around here. I go almost 3 full bars on the power bar on the left, on the bottom left, straight at the hole, and that if you get it right, you'll swoosh right into the hole. If not, you're probably going to bounce down these slides. And I made this hole a lot easier over time, but when I started it out, it was very difficult. I didn't have this thing here blocking it, so if you missed the hole, you were going over the back. Then you would have to make your way around back to go up one of these 2 slides because there's no other way back up there. And yeah, it's a cool level design. I like the little jungle gym. I like the way it looks and everything, but I think it plays a little bit too difficult. All right, this next one. So we have 4 ways here going straight. All 4 these little tunnels will lead you to these triangles that you can bounce off, or you could place near the front of this square, or near the front of the start zone, and then go down this ramp or this alley here. Both ways could get you a hole in one. Both ways could get you near the hole. If you're going straight, you probably want to go through this 3rd tunnel here, which brings you up to this little baby penguin here. And you can see if we look, we have a straight line to the hole. These other ones don't really lead you anywhere good. So if you're shooting straight through this 3rd tunnel, up to this one for sure. This hole's fun. It could be a little bit challenging too. These curling stones could get in your way. If you fall in this water, it'll kill you. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenging hole, but not super challenging. So I think I think I got the difficulty level good on this one. All right, on to hole number 18, the last one. So I set this one up. You could go straight, go around this ramp here at the end, and then come back down towards the hole. Or you could place your ball pretty much straight in front of this and go full speed into this pipe, which is what I usually do. I also added this ramp later on. I haven't tested it too much. I set it up so that you could potentially bounce off this guy and then down towards the hole, which is down here. I don't think you could get a hole in one that way. It would be pretty tough. And also, the collision box on this guy, I have uh, so you can see I have just a regular cube. So the collision's a little bit simpler on here, but it still doesn't bounce on off it very well. So, but yeah, I pretty much designed the hole around these little droids. So I went with this gold design. If you come down the ramp here, you pretty much have to come along this little glass piece. If you go off either side, you're not going to make it to the hole. But if you come down this glass piece, potentially you could roll it right down to the hole. And as you can see, this pipe also brings us straight to the hole. And then we end with our title, and as well as our thanks to our players for checking the game out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this course. So I added this little tiki bar. It's pretty much just here for the funsies, for something to look at. I tried to set it in a nice city environment here. I kept it relatively simple for the objects out here. You could see some of these buildings are just 3 objects. So I didn't want to waste too many objects on the outside. I just wanted to have enough pretty much so that it looks like we're in a city. I also put a couple people walking up and down the sidewalks, as well as this car that drives up and down and around the block. And that way you kind of feel like it's a lived in area. What else could I suggest? Um, the last thing I'll just reiterate, um, indoors is a fun theme, but I really suggest designing your courses outside. It'll give you a little bit more room. You won't have to worry about walls, or the camera, being too close to a wall and then it's messing up the way you're shooting. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this course. So we'll take a look at my second course and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so here we are in my second course. This one is set in a canyon. It's called Canyon Mini Golf. And I tried to really step up my game on this one, create a really nice environment, um, bring in a lot of different obstacles and models for each hole. And pretty much I reused all the holes from the original course. So I just pretty much copied my original course and then I did it hole by hole, redoing each hole. So this first one, we come off. This is the first hole. This Donkey Kong and his minecart actually goes around the track. Um, He's pretty much just doing a circle, but the rest of it goes underneath the ground, so you only see it when he pops out of the black space here, and then goes along the track back into the black space. Um, Threw in some bananas, seemed pretty fitting for Donkey Kong. So we have this target we're shooting at. If you get the right shot, you bounce off the target, then you bounce off this little wall towards the hole. Threw in some seagulls all over the course, you'll see. So originally I was trying to use I set up these barrels as a wall, and like I said, the collision was a little strange on the barrels, so I just ended up deciding against it. Then I came up with the idea of putting cylinders, um, invisible cylinders in the barrels to give them nicer collision. But I figured, you know what? I'll just use a regular wall, have the barrel still around in the background. Um, and it still looks fine, you know, so still got the idea I wanted, but all right, so the second hole, I actually built these cowboy cutouts. Um, I was thinking about animating them to have their arms going up and down, like they're shooting into the air or something, but I don't know if that's really necessary. I tried to make it so they look good on both sides. Um, and yeah, so there's a couple ways you could go on this hole. You could go over towards this wedge or whatever here, this wall, bounce off that to go towards the hole. Usually what I do is I set up in this left corner, go towards this right foot, and that sends us in a nice line towards the hole. You could also bounce off this wall and end up towards the hole. So there's definitely multiple ways on this one. This cowboy could give you a hard time if you end up down here and you're trying to bounce, you're gonna end up bouncing off this cowboy probably a bunch of times. And then we have our brought in a couple Mario characters. This is the cactus from like I think Super Mario 2. I'm not sure. I forget now. And we got our little spiky dude also from Mario. This was a model that I kit bashed. Actually, I have a Let's Build video on my channel where I chose three random objects, and with those objects, I had to create it into something. So for this one, I had this treasure chest, and I decided to make it into this dog. And as you can see, I built these fences, these little nice rope little fences to have all over the place. Really tried to make it like an authentic mini golf environment again, except this time we're in the out uh the way I set this hole up is you want to go up this ramp and then come back down and then towards the hole. If you end up on either side of this ramp, you're gonna have to shoot back down. I was considering removing some of these so that you could roll over nicely, but you could still kind of roll over them and still kind of bounce off them and make your way. So I left them in there. I figured it's not that big of a deal. This next hole. So if you look up Hot Wheels, like storage container or something, you have this little box that holds, I think, three Hot Wheels on each side. And then normally you hit this handle down and there's like a mechanism here that sends the car out flying. So you have this box normally at the beginning of your Hot Wheels track. So I had the whole starting in here. I was considering doing some kind of mechanism back here, but I figured it's kind of not necessary. Um, so yeah, we come down here. You have two different ways you could go. You can make your way down this left alley, or you can make your way straight and then down one of these two pipes. Um, Pretty tricky hole to get a hole in one, but pretty easy hole to play through. So got my design right on that one. I mean, you really, again, just to reiterate for people, I think the best way to design a hole, make it easy for everybody to finish, make it difficult for people to get a good score. And then you're gonna satisfy the the most possible people. Um I figured Hot Wheels is owned by Hasbro, which also owns the Transformers, so it's a good place to throw the old Optimus Prime in here. This next hole, I built these three objects that have, yeah, so we had this nice Sony stereo with the tunnel through it. And this nice little factory with a tunnel through it. Um, Essentially, I could have used each of these for a different hole in a different way. I just ended up throwing them all on the same hole, but I built them all before I built the course. A lot of these objects I built before building the course and had, maybe 10, 12 objects ready to go um, that were all ideal for the course. And then, of course, I brought in other stuff like the piranha plant I made like this a couple years ago. But yeah, really fun hole. So if you go straight through this church, you'll hit off this wall, through the stereo, off this wall, through the factory, finally hitting this little wall here and into the hole. Hole in one is definitely possible on that hole. This next one, I pretty much took all my beach theme um, stuff. My girlfriend suggested making an aquarium hole or a hole that was set in an aquarium. Um, I decided to kind of make it look almost like an aquarium, but not have any water or anything like that. So it's kind of like an open design. Start here. We have our nice killer whale. We got some rays. We got some turtles. We got some different coral. Then I made this as like an old school like diving helmet. So for this hole, we come straight. We have this wall to bounce off. And then ideally, you want to make it into the hole on the first go. Because if you miss it, then you're going down this ramp. And then you're going to have to shoot back up. And yeah, this hole could be kind of tricky if you don't get it right. But not so difficult that I think it will scare the casuals away. Alright, hole number 7. This was a fun one. Skate park theme. We have our little Pandapple from Sanrio here doing his 5-0 on this rail. And there's definitely multiple ways we could get to the hole. So our little starting zone's up here. We could bounce off this ramp and make it our way around to the hole that way. We could also come off this ramp, which is what I usually do. I aim right around here at this corner, and that'll bounce me through this circle that the panda apple is skating around, and then kind of comes around to the hole. You could get a hole in one for sure on this hole. And we have our cool little, I don't know what this creature what you would call it, hellhound, I guess. Alright, so that's hole number 7. Hole number 8. Where is hole number 8? That's a good question. Is that hole 8? Give me a second. No, so hole 8 is sending us up here. So, alright, hole number 8. So this one's pretty cool. I went with the Mayan design. We have to head our way all the way down this little stream through our Mayan mask here, or Aztec mask, whatever. Then I have this airplane. If you get into this hole here, it'll send you down towards the hole. You could also keep going on this wing. It'll bounce you off this stone and send you towards the hole. And we have our leaderboard down here and a cool little kind of waterfall area and nice water area. Then our next hole is right here, right at the start of, or the end of hole 8. So this one, we have two different pipes to make it around to the hole. We also have this ramp. We could go straight over the plane towards the hole. And then we also have our wall here that you could bounce off and then make your way towards the hole that way. So multiple ways to go. The only way I've seen a hole-in-one is through this second pink pipe here and going over the plane. Both the other ways don't seem to kind of get you there. So that was hole number 9. Hole number 10 sends us back over here. So I went with this wool sweater type material here. So it kind of gives you this like a Yoshi's Crafted World type vibe, using all the primary colors. We have this tiny little ramp or tiny little line that we can make it through, and will send us right towards the hole. You could also come off the sides here. If you bounce off this wall and miss the hole, however, you could end up down here into this death pit through some skulls, some green ooze, and I have a little audio that laughs at you down there if you end up down there. Alright, this is number 11, I think. Alright, so this next one, we have this big kind of half pipe wall. Now, as you can see, I didn't use any ramps here. I just used all straight cubes because I wanted to make sure the collision acts the way I want it to. I could have put over a ramp over it and kind of made that ramp invisible, but then, you know, if your cubes aren't lining up nicely, then the ball's going to look like it's floating through stuff and it's not going to look as nice. So I just figured I have these lines. It doesn't maybe look as nice as a ramp, but the collision's a lot nicer. So we could bounce off this wall. Ideally, you kind of come up and then come down this ramp and make your way towards the hole. A hole-in-one is very difficult on this hole, but definitely doable. So that's hole number 11. Hole number 12. Hole number 12. Is that? Huh. That's 13. Yeah, hole number 12. So we have our Jello in a watermelon fruit type theme going on here. We got our little strawberry dude. We got our little pineapple dude. Just chilling with our watermelon grass. Then we have this nice Jello looking grass here with some whipped cream and some strawberries. So this hole, you could either fly right over this wall. If you just shoot it straight at the hole, you could go right over the wall and swoosh into the hole. You could also bounce off one of these walls here, or you could go down and around. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's multiple ways you could get a hole-in-one on this one. I usually just go straight over the wall, try to get the power level right, and then swoosh into the hole. This next hole. So this is pretty cool, actually. I'll show you guys this. This material, we have birch leaves, and then on top of it, let's see. Then we have a custom grass material that's kind of animating on top of it. They're pretty much both the same size. and that way it's just showing the grass animating through the hedges. And I designed this hole so you have multiple ways. We could go either on the ramp, one of these two ramps to make our way over to the hole. We could go around the big circle. It's a really fun hole. I really like this material, grass and soil. If you color it different colors, it kind of gives you like that I really finds cool. I believe this is our next hole here, right? Hole number 14. So hole number 14 has us starting up here. You could go down, I think you could go straight toward, yeah, so you could go straight at the hole using the same strategies as some of the other holes. You just go straight over the walls, kind of try and swoosh it straight into the hole. You also have these 3 different holes in the course along here. So if you make it into this hole, it sends you down this ramp straight towards the hole. Then you have these other holes. One sends you out on the right, one sends you out here on the left. Or you could come all the way down to the end and then make your way back around towards the hole. This next one, it's a straight shot straight at the hole. It's just getting the power level right. If you go too hard, you could go right off the course. If you go not straight enough, you could end up hitting one of these blocks. Then we have this green ooze that kills you here. And if you look from far away, this is like a dragon that I kit bashed onto a door. The door, there was a similar kit bash door that I had in indoor mini golf. Then coming towards the end, so now this one, multiple ways we can make our way down towards the hole. We have these cylinders we could bounce off. Very tricky hole to get a hole in one. Very rarely do I get a hole in one on that one, although it's pretty easy to get a 2. This next one, we have a couple different ramps we could use to fling our way up here. We could also just shoot straight. So when we start the hole, we're looking this way. We could shoot here on the left, we could shoot here on the right. If we end up on one of these 2 ramps, the first one doesn't really bring you that great of an area. Kind of gets you down here. Maybe you could shoot through this gap after towards the hole. This higher one will actually will give you a hole in one if you get up there. Then we also have this little wall we could bounce off. We have these little gaps you can make your way through, or you could go all the way down to the end and then make your way back through our little donut shop guy from The Simpsons. So yeah, that's hole 17, and again, this is the grass and soil material with a with a purple thrown on it, which gives a really cool effect. I really like that material. And then for the grand finale, hole number 18, I wanted to do something really big and grandiose. So we have this pipe that we come all the way down, and we are coming all the way from this helicopter. So our starting zone's here, and we're shooting at these green arrows to make it into the circle, and then that will send us down the pipe towards the hole. Have this nice heart down here reminding people to like, bookmark, and etc. We have some cool cars down here in the parking lot, and as we're coming down this pipe towards the ending, we thank our players for playing again and remind everybody have a nice day. And that's it for this Canyon mini golf course. So hopefully you guys got some good ideas for your own holes and own courses. Um, Again, I tried to do a canyon mini golf theme, but I ended up doing a bunch of themes anyways. It's kind of the way I am. I'm all over the place with my art, but you know, if you want to simplify things, suggest just choose one theme, make all your holes that one theme, and that'll make it a little bit easier for building. And as you can see, I tried to build out the environment enough that it doesn't look like we're in like little section, and because I have the last hole in this helicopter, we're seeing more into the distance. So I had to add some more detail here and there so that it really makes it look like we're in a world. And that's it. So I wish you guys all luck. I look forward to seeing people's holes and mini golf courses. Hopefully this little tutorial helps you guys, and I wish you all a great day. Thanks a lot.